Sports Chat. I'm your host, Matt Muncy.
And this is Brock Stafford bringing it back to you again after the All-Star game. And we're going to be talking about this weekend's events, and let's talk about the rookie-sophomore game.
Yeah, the rookie-sophomore game, in my opinion, was the best event of the weekend. We had John Wall, we had DeMarcus Cousins, Blake Griffin, Stephen Curry, DeJuan Blair, and Gary Neal. Gary Neal coming out of nowhere to show me exactly who he was.
Didn't I tell you last podcast that Gary Neal was showing up?
You told me who he was, and then he showed me who he was. In the game, John Wall comes out, scores 12 points, dishes 22 assists, breaks Chris Paul's rookie-sophomore game record of 17. He tied the Magic Johnson record for All-Star Weekend. DeMarcus Cousins finishes with 33 points and 14 rebounds. That just goes to show that the guy can play ball. If the Wizards or the Kings were able to find a way to put those two on the team again, I think it would be perfect because I think Wall would be able to control Cousins and keep his mind frame from going overboard. And then, they can form some type of duo, kind of like a John Stockton, Karl Malone type of deal.
Except much less crazy.
Yeah. But then you have, Blake Griffin. He only played 13 minutes in the game. Obviously, he was basically in every other event for the weekend. But he was able to score 14 points. Most of those were alley-oops from John Wall.
With an extremely sick bounce pass in the third.
Yeah, anyone who has missed that, I'm going to be putting up it's a YouTube clip. It's the ESPN highlights. It is in there. It is probably one of the greatest passes, one of the greatest alley-oops I think anyone's ever done. And so,
of the weekend, for all the great, players this weekend, it was just astounding to see how many guys tried to do something. Those two landed one of the most impressive dunks of the weekend.
Easily the most impressive dunk of the weekend, I would say.
Let's give some credit, to the sophomores. There were three sophomores that really impressed me. Obviously, DeJuan Blair. Last year, he had it was like a 20-20, rookie sophomore game. He really came out to play and played hard. And again, this year he has 28 and 15. He definitely wanted to make his presence felt. But I really think Gary Neal, a guy who we had mentioned a little bit, you didn't quite know who Gary Neal was last time we had talked. But I think his work showed for himself. I forgot what he finished with.
He had 20 points, and he has one of the sickest floaters I've ever seen. I think he made every single one. You don't see that kind of shot. Like, you do see a lot of floaters from point guards, but his was just so perfect, and it went in every time.
I think beautiful. On that night, the player I compared him to on that shot, I told him he's learning from Tony Parker. Tony Parker has one of the sickest floaters in the game, and you definitely saw Gary Neal putting some of that. And Gary Neal and DeJuan Blair being teammates. Really, really impressive work for two guys on the same team to really come out and show their stuff.
Yeah.
But I think another guy who really brought it, and a guy who should have been on there originally with Tyreke Evans going out, James Harden got elected to the game since Evans was out, and he put in 30. And
Harden put up 30, put up some sick dunks, and he was fun to watch.
And I personally think he should have been in over his teammate Ibaka, but they didn't have any centers on the sophomore team since it was a class of pretty much ones and twos last year. But I really think Harden is a guy who's going to make a difference, and he's already a difference maker. I think obviously Westbrook and Durant and even Ibaka overshadow him sometimes, but he's a serious player in this league. He's a number 3 pick.
Yeah, he was really good. Stephen Curry led the sophomores with 8 assists. Didn't really do much of anything else, and besides Curry, Blair, and Harden, that was really it for the sophomores. No one else really came out and did anything spectacular. The rookies won the game. What was it, 148 to 140, I believe. Funny enough, Cousins was quoted after the game. We were trying to work together, meaning him and John Wall. He wanted to break the assist record, and I wanted to be MVP. Well, Cousins put up the numbers to be MVP pretty easily. But 33 and 14, that's MVP material on a game-winning.
He had about the same game that DeJuan Blair had.
Yeah, but
five points difference, and he was 1 rebound less than Blair. I mean,
But considering the rookies won, the sophomores weren't going to get the MVP unless someone put up like a 50-point game or something like that. Cousins put up enough to win MVP for the winning team, but with John Wall's 22 assists, and then you add in the bounce pass dunk alley oop to Griffin, there's just no way John Wall wasn't going to get it. So kind of funny
well,
that he was working together with Wall so that way he could get MVP and he actually helped Wall win the MVP in the long run.
well, but you saw that dunk at the end with Wall, Cousins to
Cousins to
Wall.
Wall.
One of the sickest dunks of the weekend again. What involved John Wall, but it was one of John Wall's putting it down, and yeah, just a sick dunk. And then the one after the buzzer with I think it was Wesley Johnson, and Wall.
Yeah, which they don't show because I think it was after time, and I've yet to see a replay of it. But that was also a pretty sick dunk. So all right, so like I said, to me that was the best event of the weekend, just from a standpoint that everyone looked like they were having fun. They weren't taking it too serious, and the rookies just had an all around amazing squad.
You thought it was going to be a bigger win than it was. I think really the sophomores did give a good effort. I just don't think they got the kind of contributions that they needed to from the rest of the guys on their team. But they had about three guys who really gave them solid games and kept them at least competitive for most of the game.
So then on to Saturday night. The first contest we had was the Taco Bell Skills Challenge because
No,
we're not.
before let's at least give Al Horford his props because that guy was shooting actually very very well from the field.
All right, Al Horford and Team Atlanta won the Shooting Stars contest that began the evening, which I think is just a joke of a contest. It needs to go away. It's really dumb. We spent way too much time talking about it already.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So let's go into the Taco Bell Skills Challenge, which I called correctly on our preview podcast,
Whatever.
with the winner being Stephen Curry of 28.2 in the final round. He beat Westbrook, who ended up with like 44 seconds. Considering he had 30 in the first round and he ends with 44, that's just horrible.
Well, the problem was, a lot of the guys just kept going and didn't make their stuff. I mean, I really think Rose would have made it to the second round had he not been in such a hurry.
Yeah, it did seem like a lot of people were in a hurry, and the passing was what screwed up most people. But Curry on that last round, I think he got every single one through on the first try. He was roughly 3 seconds off of the record, which is held by Darren Williams of 25.5. So,
Sick run. He hit.
yeah,
everything.
he hit everything. And the one thing I noticed watching the Darren Williams record challenge was when he shot the 3-pointer, he didn't hesitate after the shot went up. He knew it was going to go in, and he started heading towards the next part. Whereas if you go back and watch the guys from this time, every single one hesitates, even when it's a swoosh. They all shoot, and then they kind of take off, and then they kind of come back. And I think when they come back, that messes them up. And Curry did the same thing. They all just kind of hesitate before they take off to the next one, and
Well,
that's
the
just where
other
Darren
thing-
Williams got him.
The other thing Williams did in the year he set the record was you see when after he makes the first basket and he has to go through the first set of obstacles and there's no waste motion. He blazes through those and he pushes the tempo. I think that's what we didn't see from a lot of the guys is when it came to the ball handling, something they all should do instinctively. None of them really pushed the pace. I think that was a big problem for when it came down to actually winning it. But I give Curry his props. I think Curry really did a fantastic job and really did what he needed to win.
Yeah, I did think it would be a little more competitive just with the names alone that were in this, but like you said before, they got held up on passing and little stuff like that, and it just ended up not being as good as what it should have been. At least I thought it should have been.
Not as good as past years. Past years have been better.
Then we had the Foot Locker 3-point challenge. I mean, it went how we kind of expected it to. The winner we both missed, but you were a little more forthcoming in thinking that Jones had a shot more than I did,
And
and he
he
won.
showed it.
Yeah, in the first round, Ray Allen put up 20. James Jones had 16. Pierce squeaked by with 12 to get into the final round.
Barely. And the only reason he had 12 was he went off on the last two racks
Yeah,
because he missed almost everything the first. I mean, he had like the first two shots and then didn't make anything for the next two
yeah,
racks.
he hit the final money ball just to get into the final round. Darrell Wright hit 11. Gibson with only 7, and Kevin Durant hit 6. I told
Oh,
you he did not belong in this, and he only hit
Durant
6.
just looked like his shot was off. And,
It's called
you
Durant,
know,
just not a good 3-point shooter. I mean, there's nothing
okay,
else to it.
I really think that, James Jones was able to get off his shot a little bit better. Allen was just seemed off, and I think Jones really proved it in that second round that he was really just completely locked in on his shots. So
Yeah, he lit it up, and Paul Pearson went first, set that tone with 18. Jones then came in, hit 20. So Ray Allen knew, Ray Allen went last in the final round. He knew what he needed to do to beat him, and just couldn't get it done. A couple of just kind of record kind of stat things. Kevin Durant with his 6, he was actually one shy of tying Michael Jordan of all people for the least amount of threes made in a 3-point competition. Jordan had 5, and then just a fun fact: the record is 25 in a round, and that's held by Craig Hodges and Jason Capono.
and you always bash on Jason Capono.
Jason Capono, I know he's just like James Jones. They're no name 3-point shooters because you wouldn't put them in the same category as a Mike Miller or a Kyle Korver.
But and I don't know if you know this, but this was something they really brought up during the weekend. The Heat now have the record for most 3-point shooters to win the contest of any team in the league. They have 4.
Oh, really?
They have Capono now with James Jones, Daquan Cook, and the fourth guy, I think it was Eddie Jones.
Eddie Jones, yeah, that would make sense.
It was either Eddie Jones or Steve Smith.
Okay. James Jones wins, I guess he proves everyone wrong that he could do it. In my mind, he's still not that great of a player. He doesn't even, he barely shoots 40% from threes. He's never shot over 40% in a season. Congratulations, you won a contest. You're in the same boat as Jason Capono, who is doing what exactly? Awesome.
He's sucking right
Exactly.
now.
That's why I say this. If a Ray Allen wins it, it's because Ray Allen can shoot. If a Paul Pierce wins it, it's because Paul Pierce can shoot threes. James Jones can do it with no one guarding him. Congratulations.
But Paul Pierce had the worst 3-point shooting this percentage this year. So
Coming into this event, no, he didn't. That was Kevin Durant.
Durant had the worst.
Yes, and he proved it with his 6.
I will recant my previous opinion. Durant can shoot, but I guess this season he's not been showing it.
Well, he couldn't hit him in the All-Star game either, so it's not like it's that big of a shocker. Then we have the dunk contest, which was good, kind of creative, but not great, in my opinion.
I think it's been better than past couple years have been.
It was better than past couple years. The props were less tacky, and there were less of them, and it was more of actual dunking. And DeMar DeRozan comes out. He throws up 2 pretty good dunks.
And he got a 44 for the VC throwback off the side of the backboard between the legs.
Yeah, and then he scores a 50 on a second dunk. Serge Ibaka comes out, jumps from the free throw line, which obviously we've seen the dunk before, but we've never seen someone take off from behind the free throw line before.
And he was legitimately behind the line.
Yeah, he only scored a 45. His next dunk, which was the crappiest dunk of the night, he tried to bite a stuffed animal hanging from the rim and dunk it. Got it on a second try, but
the second try took too long to set up.
And he also scored a 45 for that. So, looking at it from a fan's perspective, it doesn't make sense how the judges were voting. It also seemed, you can play conspiracy theorist with this pretty easily.